Hi, I'm Alison Ross, an eating disorder therapist and founder of NDH Therapy, and this is Conversations in Eating Recovery. In today's podcast, I'm reacting to parts of Oprah's recent Pro-GLP1 infomercial. In case you missed it, here's the recap. Oprah loves GLP-1s. She's calling them a miracle drug, selling her book about them, and directing people to a compound pharmacy to get them. And Oprah, this is your playbook. For decades, Oprah has followed the same script. She goes to extremes for weight loss. She does a big reveal of her thinner body, and then she regains the weight. And while the regain is not her fault, it's actually how bodies work and what happens when you push your body too far and fast into weight loss. She always claims in the beginning of her yo-yo dieting cycle that she has found the magic pill for weight loss, and she wants you to follow her down that road. And by the time your weight loss journey falls apart, she's long gone and into something else. So while GLP-1s offer hope for those facing serious weight-related illness or immobility, turning them into a mass market weight loss fad, in my opinion, that's reckless. Oprah's framing GLP-1 as a miracle cure, normalizing them for anyone who wants to lose weight, and that's a heck of a lot of us. But rebranding high-risk medications as a casual lifestyle choice, that's dangerous. Look, I am not the body police. Your body's your business, do what you want. But as an eating disorder therapist, I just can't stay silent while watching this play out. This isn't just a trend, it's a risk to our collective health. And I know that being overweight can have health consequences. So does rapid extreme weight loss. And there are lots of ways to get healthier without full-on shutting down your appetite with a serious drug and pushing your body into a weight range that it's not meant to be in. It's not going to be sustainable. What we know from experience is that when a weight loss drug or strategy pushes the body too far into weight loss, the body fights back. This can mean regaining the weight, plus more, or the body breaking down, leaving people weak, sick, heavier, and hungrier in the long run. And in terms of what I care about most, it can also cause or worsen eating disorders. We're only at the beginning of this trend, so the dark side might be hard to see. But I'm watching as side effects, lightning fast weight rebounds, how difficult it is to pull off the GLP-1 maintenance phase, and people getting sick. And I know they don't have this whole thing figured out yet, even though they're giving it to a heck of a lot of people. The fallout, it's coming. And Oprah's situationship with the online pharmacy that she's promoting, that raises serious flags for me. Are these reputable doctors who will reasonably assess and guide you through this risky venture, or is this just a money grab? In a society that is already conditioned women to hate their natural bodies, normalizing these drugs for weight loss feels kind of predatory to me. We're all told that our bodies are the problem and the shot is the solution, but at what cost? These shots have so many side effects, risks, and long-term consequences. Metabolic science is clear. It tells us starve your body and it will fight back. We're still in the early days of these drugs, but we already know that most people regain the weight when they stop, and it's also possible these drugs are going to become less effective or not effective over time. In fact, we know that 2 of 3 people who take them don't stay on them for more than a year because it's untenable for a number of different reasons, and that means that they're having to shoulder the damage and the health risks of another serious yo-yo dieting cycle. And it's not just about warning about weight loss and regain, it's about the damage of yo-yo dieting, the cycles that compromise your metabolism, nutrition, and body composition, leaving your body in survival mode, driven to regaining the weight, and often more as quickly as possible. Thousands of people are already suing manufacturers of these drugs for stomach paralysis and loss of vision. Yes, loss of vision. My prediction, this won't be a miracle journey for most. For many, it will be a direct path to an eating disorder and more intense struggles with weight, health, and body image, as GLP-1s compromise muscle mass, nutrition, and metabolism. Many users won't just lose weight, they will lose their mental and physical health in the process. We're already seeing celebrities develop what looks like anorexia, and we have friends who are making trips to the ER because they're getting so sick on these meds. My clients wonder, how can they hold on to recovery when so many people around them are getting thinner? I remind them that phase 1 of an extreme diet is usually weight loss, but it's only a matter of time before we see the weight regain and the physical and mental harm of extreme diets. Personally, recovering from my eating disorder was the greatest gift of my life. I stopped hating my body. I overcame the lie that my appetite was something wild that I had to control or suppress. I learned to like my body and trust my natural appetite, the one that is designed to regulate my weight and my health and my eating exactly as nature intended. Your appetite is only a problem when it's been hijacked by our diet and food culture, or when it gets hypercharged over time by one of these drugs. Recovery changes everything. It makes you see trends like GLP-1 weight loss drugs for what they are, another false promise. They sell us dreams, but I feel like they're leading us straight to hell, leaving our nutrition, metabolism, muscles, and organs even more compromised for having tried. I wish Oprah had found healing, not just weight loss. I wish she hadn't put herself into another box, pressured to maintain this new size. I wish her big reveal was her finally letting go of weight, the pressure, the shame. I wish she came out and told the world, hey, I realized my body was never wrong, and shame on you for making me think that it was. I'm not a number on a scale, I'm so much more. This truth is obvious to me about Oprah. Oprah isn't saying that, so I will. It's the truth about her, and it's the truth about you. And this realization is the way I'd like the story of our collective eating, weight, and body image pain to end. Let's jump into Oprah's Pro-GLP1 infomercial, where I'll react to her sales pitch.
I can remember the very first time I was embarrassed by the idea of weight. I'd gotten a scale at the Kmart, and I was in the hallway standing on the scale, and my father passed by and he says, no need you weighing yourself, because, you're going to be big. You're going to be big. And no matter what you do, you're always going to be big. He says, have you seen your mother? Have you seen your mother and your mother's sisters? And he tells the story. He says, I had your mother and your mother's sisters in the back of my Buick, and I could hardly drive off with my Buick because they were so big. And I remember that moment, and I carried that with me throughout my life. You're going to be big. You're going to be big. Remember your mother. Remember your aunts. And
okay, just want to jump in and say that that's hard. And a lot of people have stories like that. You're going to be big is it's something that caused shame for Oprah that she carried throughout her life. Maybe it was traumatic for her. A lot of people get body shamed, and it is traumatic for them, and it does carry with them, and it does make them feel very nervous about their weight and their bodies. I think that, one of the real problems that we have in our society and diet culture is that you're going to be big, or like your genetics are big, that's such a big problem. Only in diet culture do we think of that as such a big problem. And is there all this like shaming and judgment around it? And if we didn't have diet culture in the background, Oprah and so many other people could have grown into their bodies as they were meant to be, their normal bodies as they were meant to be, without having to feel shame about them. So that's hard. And I relate. And I think a lot of people probably out there relate to being shamed or put down in some way, or made to feel like there's something wrong with your body. And also made to feel that like a bigger body is a bad body, even if that's just the body that you genetically had. So Oprah could have been spared a lot of pain had her, in this case, father, been more supportive of her genetics and who she was. And a lot of us could have. So that's hard.
About 3 years ago, that core belief that I was destined to be big started to shift in the most profound way when I learned that for so many of us, obesity is a disease. The science is now clear. Obesity is not a choice. It is not caused by a lack of willpower or inherent laziness or you not doing enough. It is a disease. And this is one of the most astonishing revelations of my lifetime, I have to say. So I want to introduce you to Dr. Anya Yastroboff. She is an endocrinologist and professor at the Yale School of Medicine. And hi, Anya.
Hi Oprah.
For 15 years, Dr. Anya has been at the forefront of the research on the new GLP-1 based medications. And now she has written a book. And I tell my weight loss story in the book. And the book is called Enough. Enough. Your health and weight and what it's like to be free. So my hope is that this book.
And to be clear here, Oprah and this doctor who wrote this book are saying to be free of weight, right? Like one of the things that so many of us need and maybe underestimate the importance of is to be free of the mental weight of being made to feel that our natural bodies are wrong, because that's actually a setup for so many of us for developing the eating disorders and disordered eating and maybe food addiction and things that actually contribute to weight gain in the long run.
Book will help all of you who are on your own weight journey, whether you are taking the new GLP-1 medications or not, it is the book that I wish I had when I started and wish I'd had long ago when I didn't even know that obesity was a disease. So welcome back to the podcast, Dr. Anya.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have been studying this now for decades, and this is the thing that struck me, that you all who've been studying this have known that obesity was a disease, at least for the past 10 years.
Yes, we have. Actually, longer than that.
Okay, longer than that. Okay. And how did we all miss the memo?
Well, it's one thing for a medical association to declare obesity as a disease, right? So the AMA declared obesity as a disease in 2013. The WHO declared it as a disease in 1948. And actually, we already knew that obesity was a disease back in Egyptian times. It's another thing to say that it's because of biology and to understand that there's a biology that is driving that obesity. And it wasn't really until the mid-1990s with the discovery of leptin, which is a hormone made by our fat, that we started to understand that hormones communicate with the brain and that can lead to obesity biology. The other part of it is the new medicines. The new medicines actually opened up an entire new world in terms of helping us to understand the biology of obesity. So until we had effective treatments, there wasn't necessarily a way to treat that obesity. And so they were key in helping us to understand the biology, which is why obesity is a disease, not because an association declares it to be.
Yeah, I get that part.
Okay, so obesity is a disease. Here's how I think about it. I can get on board with the idea that genetically we are all different and that some people would genetically be more predispositioned to obesity than other people. But there's this other huge factor that I think is so important for us all to understand, which is the obesogenic environment that we're living in. So the way that I see it, we have on one hand diet culture and on the other hand food culture, setting up scenarios by which so many of us are going to struggle with our appetites, with our eating, and with our weight and with our body image. So on one hand, diet culture plays a role in the obesity epidemic in this way. From a very young age, so many of us fell under extreme or a lot of psychological stress and pressure about our bodies. We got the message in diet culture from the collective voice of advertisers and media and all the people in our lives who had been affected and conditioned by advertisers and media to believe that our natural bodies were wrong. Oprah talked about it, like her dad already was, presenting that idea to her when she was very young. And things like that happened to me, and they've happened to so many people that I've worked with over time. That diet culture seeps in through our screens, through our TVs, through our media, through our loved ones, causing us oftentimes at a very young age to feel like something is wrong with our natural bodies. And that puts us into a state of stress, and that affects our vagus nerve. Our vagus nerve affects our appetite. So when we take in all this psychological stress and pressure about our bodies, it is actually going to dysregulate our nervous systems and dysregulate our appetite. Having a lot of stress in the nervous system correlates with having an increased hunger and increased sort of food-seeking drive, wanting foods that are highly rewarding and highly palatable. And so with our stress response being on, we want to get food whenever we can get it. We want to get as much as we can. We want to get high caloric food in order to strengthen and shore up our bodies so that we can get through whatever those chronic stressors are, even if those stressors are psychological stress, like what Oprah experienced with her dad and what many of us experienced growing up, getting body shamed. So on one hand, we have diet culture stressing us, shaming us, putting us under all of this pressure and impacting our appetite in that way. And on the other hand, we have the food industry making food that is highly rewarding, highly addictive. And so it's the type of food that when we're under a lot of stress, we're going to feel really drawn to because it's going to help soothe that stress. And biologically now, when we're in survival mode, we're going to be reaching for that food. We're going to be more interested in that food as a result of our survival response being on. So we've got this kind of like 1-2 punch where diet culture is making us feel really bad and stressed about our bodies. Food is highly rewarding, and so we become more interested in it because we're in so much stress, and then we can get addicted, and then that can start to set up patterns of overeating, patterns of emotional eating, patterns of binge eating. At the same time, we could feel a lot of shame about that because, of course, we're living in diet culture. So we might have periods of like trying to really restrict our food and trying to eat as little as possible. And that can set us up for malnutrition, which further increases our hunger drive and further sends us to this highly rewarding food. And then, of course, and maybe I should have mentioned this in the beginning, but just the food even itself, even if you didn't have a lot of stress going on, the food itself is addictive. So, we're in this obesogenic environment. And certainly, if there are genes that predispose people to obesity, this environment is very likely to turn on those genes.
All right. So what we all want to know, and for you to explain in as layman's terms as possible, why it is a disease. Now, the very first time I heard this, I likened it into, because I know there are a whole lot of naysayers and a lot of people who want to believe that it isn't, even though the science is saying it is. But, I've been through this. I've lived long enough and done conversations long enough that I remember in the very early days of doing the Oprah show, like in 1986, 1987, the very first time we did a show on alcoholism, and doctors were saying alcoholism is a disease. The audience, all the people, although we did not have social media at the time, were like, oh no, just put down the bottle. Why can't you just stop drinking? People did not understand.
There is certainly a genetic component to obesity, but there's also a nature-nurture conditioned environment. There are all these different factors. And so it's not so simple to say that obesity is a disease, in my opinion. But also, I don't like the way people are shaming her and going, oh, just put down the food, just put down the food. There's so much shaming of people for their eating patterns, which I think just really lets the food industry off the hook and allows them to just continue to engineer food that is more and more unnaturally rewarding and more addictive. And so I don't really like people saying, yeah, just put down the food. I think that really misses the mark in terms of understanding the stress that so many people are under about their bodies, about their eating, the histories of dieting and restricting food that have set people up for overeating, and the food itself that, ultra processed food itself that sets people up for overeating. I think we need to acknowledge that, nobody wants to be binge eating. Nobody wants to be emotionally eating. This is part of what we struggle with in our environment today because the food and diet industries have been able to impact the food and our mindset and our nervous systems and our appetites in the way that they have.
Understand that there are some people who are genetically prone for it being a disease, and that everybody who drinks is not an alcoholic, but there are many people who drink, and because of what alcohol does to their bodies, because of their genes, is very different than people who just, so is it the same thing? Lots of people are eating in the world. Not everybody is carrying the propensity for obesity.
Yes, not everybody is carrying the propensity, although, as you pointed out, 2/3 or 3/4 of us actually are. So if we had been born 100 years ago, all of us would likely weigh less. So somebody born 100, well, because of our obesogenic environment. So an environment that is filled with ultra-processed food, lack of physical activity, lots of stress, lack of sleep, all these things lead to the development of obesity.
Why do they always forget diet culture in that list? Why do they always forget the extreme psychological stress that so many of us are under about our bodies because of diet culture and because of weight stigma, and how much that impacts appetite and disordered eating and weight as well? I hate that they just always forget that.
They confuse our biology, and our biology is doing the best that it can to adjust. But if we had been born, let's say somebody was supposed to be normal weight 100 years ago. Fast forward to right now, they may actually have overweight or be overweight. If somebody was supposed to be overweight 100 years ago, if they were born now, they may actually have obesity. And that's because our environment changed much more quickly than our biology, because our biology evolved thousands of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Okay, so is it a gene? Is it a hormone? Is it something within my body that's not in Reese Witherspoon's body?
So
I love Reese, and I go to Reese because the first time you told me this, and you were saying, well, it's our environment. I said, Reese Witherspoon lives in the same environment.
Yeah, she does.
She actually lives in the same neighborhood.
She does.
And Reese does not have this problem.
And you may walk your dogs together. So genetically, she may have genetic thinness, and I don't know. I don't know the details of Reese Witherspoon, but she may be more likely to be resistant to that environment. But most of us are not. Most of us end up gaining weight. Now, in terms of the genetics of it, for most people.
So maybe since most of us end up gaining weight in this environment, it that might make less of a case for it being a disease and more of a case for this being environmental and the things that I've just talked about that set us up to have a dysregulated appetite, a dysregulated relationship with food, to be gaining weight.
People, it's not just one gene. There are people who have monogenic, so single gene forms of obesity, but for most of us, it's polygenic. it has to do with our family. So as your dad had pointed out, so if our parents have obesity, we are more likely to have obesity. So there's many genes that are involved, but it's true. Some people are more resistant to that environment than others.
Okay. Over the years, I think I've gained and lost probably, hundreds of pounds. Everybody's seen me pull out the wagon of fat, and I thought that was the end of it. And then I ran a marathon, and then I've done Weight Watchers. I've done hundreds of diets, just like many of you have done hundreds of diets. And I know so many of you feel, as I felt, like your body is fighting against you.
Yes.
And in the book, Enough, you talk about us all.
So like your body's not fighting against you, your body's fighting for you. Unfortunately, so often what it is that the body is fighting back against, like I was talking about before, our restrictive dieting efforts that cause us to become malnourished, the incredible amount of stress and pressure that we're feeling about our bodies that actually increases our appetite and our food-seeking drive, as well as, the food environment and just how incredibly rewarding, how it's designed to get us hooked, how it's addictive, all of that.
Having an internal thermostat. And mine, I think, is set at 211 pounds.
Yes.
And I say that because my body is always, when I first went on, did the fast back in 1988 and pulled out the wagon of fat, I started out at 211 pounds. After I ran the marathon, put the weight back on, I went back to 211 pounds. 211 seems to be the set point for me, between 211.
Okay, so what's wrong with that? Like 211 pounds for her as somebody who genetically comes from a family that or bigger, curvy, or whatever she wants to call it. Is that wrong? Is that bad? One of the things that we do know is that when people have been chronic dieters, as Oprah has, when they've been constantly going through yo-yo dieting cycles, I did too. Lots of people do that in diet culture, of course, that will actually increase a person's weight set point. So, Oprah's body wanting to be at 211 could partially just be genetic. And if so, I mean, like, what about more acceptance about that? What about more like love for your body and for how your body is, and just accepting that so that you can kind of like move on with your life and not have this preoccupation? I'm not judging here, and I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but I'm saying that's a possible thing to do. And then the other thing is perhaps Oprah's set point is a little higher than what it would be if she had been left alone about her body, if she had not been treated so badly about her body over time. I think she would say she'd been treated very badly about her body over time. If it had just been left alone, if she hadn't gone on all those diets, if she hadn't starved herself so many times. Oprah famously went 4 months without eating food and really promoted it on her show. I was a kid when that happened, and I watched those episodes when she was talking about starving yourself and how possible it was. And it really impacted me to think that starving yourself was a good idea. And I do not appreciate that aspect of what Oprah helped to teach me about. But Oprah's weight being at 211, like that could be higher than what her natural weight would be, because she was a yo-yo dieter all of those years, and that does increase weight. It would have been better if Oprah would have been supported in how her natural body was. That would have been better for her health, and it may have kept her weight set point lower.
And 218, my body is fighting to get to 211.
Yes.
Why is that?
Your body's biology is extremely strong. Extremely strong.
I see that she is.
Yes.
No.
Yes, she is.
No, her body's biology is not extremely strong. I mean, Oprah's not talking about anything that everybody doesn't relate to. Like, most of us have been conditioned to think that our bodies should be smaller than they are. And so we are frustrated that we're not able to control what our weight is. And for her to say, oh, you have this really strong biology. No, like, your body's not supposed to be smaller than this weight that it just keeps telling you it wants to go back to. And the fact that you keep pushing against that is part of what's impacting your health negatively and your appetite negatively. It's part of why you've had an eating disorder for all of these years. I'm not blaming you. I'm saying this isn't because, this isn't because there's something wrong with your biology. Your biology is just like doing what your biology does to keep weight on your body, and you're pushing it really hard in the other direction with all the years of restricting yourself and not eating and all of that.
She's a tough old girl.
And
she's a tough old girl who wants to be 211.
Yeah. And I don't know anybody else who has more grit than you do. I mean, you have more grit than someone who has scaled Mount Everest. You have tried everything. You have dieted, you've run marathons. It's just like you said, you have so much grit, and yet you cannot overcome this. And that's because we cannot will.
Imagine with all the resource and smarts and ability that Oprah has, if, you know, she would have found a resource in her life that would have helped her to put all of this energy that she's put her whole life into losing weight, into like just lifting herself up and working with those core beliefs that she developed, that something was so wrong and negative about her body. I mean, I wish that she would have had somebody in her life to help her overcome that pain, and that the freedom that she could have found would have been more mental, because I fear she's still in that same box, where as long as she keeps this weight loss by whatever means she's doing that, she's going to feel better about herself. But, you know, that's certainly not guaranteed. And in most cases, when people go on these medications, they do regain the weight. She could be an outlier, and I'll tell you why when we get to that part in a minute. But I'm sad for Oprah that she hasn't had an opportunity to lift the mental weight of the diet culture that she internalized, and that she's still like chasing this thing. It seems like she's had just so much success in her life, and I wish that that could have been enough for her. And I'm not judging her about that. I mean, this is a struggle for a lot of people, unfortunately, in our diet and food culture.
Power away the biology of obesity.
Okay, so this is the most important thing to know for everybody who's naysaying and doesn't really get it yet. Your body is always fighting to get back to a certain internal thermostat.
Yeah.
And
it still is, even if you use Ozempic. We'll talk more about that in a minute.
for all of us, that thermostat is different. As I just said, mine seems to be between 211 and 218. You all are all thinking about what your number is, right?
Yeah.
Because you always, no matter what, end up back in that range.
And this with body temperature. So for example, body temperature, 98.6. Are any of us sitting here thinking to ourselves, I must keep my body temperature 98.6? No, we're not. If we're cold, like we are right now, we shiver.
Yeah.
If we are hot, then we will sweat, right? So we keep it there. It turns out our body does the exact same thing with fat
range.
And I can explain it with an analogy. So we can think about a house, and a house has a thermostat. We don't really think about it. It's just set to a certain temperature, let's say 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And when it is hot outside, what happens? The AC turns on. We don't think about it, right? When it's cold outside, what happens? The furnace turns on. And ultimately that temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just there. Your body does this with so many different things. It does it.
And if only we could allow bodies to just do that, to just do that beautiful thing that they do. She just made this analogy of the thermostat. Yeah, I mean, leave a body alone and, you know, have a better food environment, and people's weight regulating systems will regulate their weight right at that set point that they are genetically meant to be at. You know, unfortunately, in diet culture, we have so much judgment about that people aren't able to just like grow into their healthy bodies and be happy, you know? So yes, we do have a set point. Unfortunately, because of circumstances in Oprah's life, she has been kind of like messing with and disrupting that set point, and probably increasing that set point, certainly unknowingly. I know she's just doing what she thinks makes her a better person by trying to lose weight, but unfortunately, and this is like the 1-2 punch, the more we mess with our weight, the further we push our bodies into unsustainable weight ranges, the more that our bodies push back, and the more likely it is our set point is going to go up.
Has this amount of fat in mind. And for Oprah, that amount of fat somehow equates to about 211 pounds. So what does that mean? When Oprah diets, when she exercises, when she does all the things, what happens is her appetite increases. Her appetite increases, and her body says, eat more and burn less. Be more efficient with the energy that you have.
Not just Oprah, all of us. That's how it works for everyone.
Same way, what our body does is actually when we gain weight, it does the opposite. It turns down our appetite and it helps us burn more. But the way that we are built is to actually always want more. And the reason why we always want more and why our body doesn't think that it has enough is because we are built for survival. And so we don't want to starve. So every time Oprah tried to lose weight, her body was like, you're starving. You better go eat something else. You better conserve your energy. Do not lose that weight. I do not want you to die.
Is that what the food noise is?
Not just Oprah. Everyone. That right there was a lesson in metabolic science, and also in evolutionary biology. Basically, the idea is that we evolved as human beings in environments of food scarcity over all of those years of evolution. And what that means is that our brains are extremely sensitive to any sign of food scarcity, of us not getting enough food. Even if that's a modern day crash diet or the Ozempic shot, your brain is going to respond to you losing weight by increasing your hunger, increasing your food seeking drive, slowing your metabolism. You burn more, you will burn less of the less that you are eating because of our evolutionary biology. And what this means is that all these years of telling us that we should be really watching our eating and be on these really restrictive diets has done probably nothing more than trigger our survival responses and put our bodies into a weight storing mode and increased our weight set points, which is part of what contributes to what they call the obesity epidemic. So restrictive crash dieting, so promoted in our society, is part of what contributes to the obesity epidemic. And of course, on the other side of that, as we get hungrier and we want high rewarding food because we've malnourished ourselves because of our latest crash diet, then of course the set point of our bodies goes up.
Food noises.
Yeah.
That's exactly what the food noise is.
And for those of you who have never experienced food noise because you live in a thinner body and you don't have obesity as a disease or as an issue.
Okay. I experienced food noise so much of my life. I had an eating disorder. I experienced food noise at different weights, when I was thinner, when I was bigger. It's not just people with obesity or who are overweight who experience food noise. And in just a minute, I'll explain why that is and what food noise really is.
For you, please explain what food noise is,
Yeah.
because I remember talking to somebody and they were like, what do you mean? What do you mean
What are you
food
talking
noise?
about
And I
food
go, oh,
You know.
oh, you don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Okay. Yeah.
So food noise is a manifestation of that biology, of that striving to survive. So basically what happens is if we are living below our set point or our enough point, so again, in Oprah's case, 211 pounds, what happens is her body's like, well, we got to find a way to eat more. You got to eat more. If you don't eat more, we're going to die. So constantly she may walk by the kitchen.
Evolutionary biology, metabolic science. Yes. Starve your body, your weight will go up.
And be like, is there something for me to snack on? Is there something?
I call that grazing thing where you're just standing in the pantry, you're standing with the refrigerator.
You don't
door open,
notice.
You don't even,
And
Not just you, Oprah, all of us.
so food noise is a manifestation of that biology. It is persistent. It is disruptive. It is intrusive. It really takes our attention away from all these other things that we could be doing. And anytime that somebody is living below their enough point, they may experience food noise.
But here's the thing.
Yes.
Here's the thing. The moment I took the first GLP-1, I mean, like the next day, the food noise subsided. And I thought, what the living hell is going on here? Because all these years, I always thought that those of you who do not suffer from this, have not had obesity or the experience of it, I always thought you all were just stronger, that you're will.
Okay. As Oprah, as the doctor just explained, food noise is your body's survival response. And I say this all the time. Food noise is not normal, but it is an indication that your body is in survival mode, that you are too stressed, that you do not have enough nutrition, that you are in need of a nutritional, maybe emotional self-care in order to regulate. So Oprah's so excited because she took the shot and her food noise went away right away. And I know that that's a common experience on these medications, but that does not mean that your body is no longer in its survival response. All that means is that you numbed it out. And now you are not hearing the message that your body is in stress because you are malnourished, because you are too stressed. And now you're not taking care of yourself. You're just numbing yourself out so that you no longer hear the message of food noise, which is a survival response, an indication you need some care. And so you're going to go on Ozempic and you're going to knock that all out for a while. But it doesn't change the fact that your body's in survival mode and is in need of care. In fact, being on Ozempic and shutting down that noise is more likely to increase that survival response, to slow that metabolism more. The food noise is not gone. It is simply muted. And now you can't hear the message of the food noise. So you aren't aware that you're in need. That is going to make the food noise like so much bigger in most cases for people who do restrictive dieting, crash dieting, and for people who are on these shots. And that is something that we're hearing about a whole lot.
Willpower was greater, that in spite of all the things I've been able to do in my life, that many of you have that thing that allows you to not to think about food.
And
then I realized you weren't even thinking about it.
That's right. That's
you
right.
weren't even thinking about it.
Yeah.
And part of this too is like the trauma or the extreme emotional overwhelm of even like at a very young age, being made to think that your body is wrong and therefore you've got to be really careful with food. And now, like, you know, food, the thing that we fear, becomes this preoccupation. And that's part of what the food noise is too. And again, an important message that we need some emotional healing. We need to heal from the toxic indoctrination that we got from diet culture and from our loved ones that were under the diet culture spell and that further, sent us these very toxic messages. That part of the message is like, we need to heal from all that, not numb it out.
Describe in enough that the discovery of the GLP-1 medications is similar to the discovery of penicillin and insulin.
Yes.
Why are these medications different than anything we've ever experienced before?
Yeah. Well, there are these moments in medicine, like the discovery of insulin or penicillin. These medicines taught us about the diseases, they taught us about the biology, and they saved millions of people's lives. And that's exactly what these medicines are doing. They're teaching us about the biology, just as we talked about, and they're going to save millions of people's lives, and they already are. And here's why. Because obesity, in and of itself, is a disease that affects so many of us. But obesity is also associated with over 200 other diseases. 200. So diseases like diabetes, like heart disease, certain types of cancer, hypertension, high cholesterol, all these things. And what is the number one killer of Americans today? It is heart disease. It is heart disease. And if you are a woman and you have obesity, your risk for developing heart disease is 50% higher. And if you are...
Okay, so the risk for developing heart disease goes up if you are a yo-yo dieter. So yo-yo dieting, one of the things that's happening to lots and lots of people who are using these shots is bad for your heart. Another thing people should be aware of is that there was a study about a year ago on mice that showed that when they were put on Ozempic actually shrunk their muscle, the muscle cells in their heart and the overall size of their heart. And that is like, that could potentially be really, really hard on the heart. So yo-yo dieting is hard on the heart. Ozempic is hard on the heart. If Ozempic sets up another yo-yo dieting cycle, it's going to be bad. It's going to be hard on the heart. Another thing is like, this doctor is acting so certain that like, okay, now we've just got like the cure for obesity. We're going to save so many people. I mean, that is so much up for debate. A recent study showed that about 60 to 70% of people who go on these medications go off of them within a year. And as soon as they go off of them, nothing has been fixed or changed. The only thing that's happened is that their appetite has been muted and their food noise has been muted. So maybe they've eaten less. Very possible they got malnourished. It's very possible that it has wasted their muscles and their bones, and they're going to just gain that weight back really quickly. They're going to go into another yo-yo dieting cycle, most likely. These drugs they're forever drugs, but we also don't know if they're going to be effective forever. And we can see from the research that like a large number of people are going off of them. So we need to like look at that and see that for a lot of people, it is untenable to be on these medications, probably for multiple reasons, whether it be cost, whether it be side effects, whether it be some of the risks to the organs that it causes, feeling tired all the time, getting depressed. I mean, there's so many things, right? So, I don't know. I think it's really up for debate, and we need a lot more time to see if the doctor's claim that this is going to help so many people is actually true. Because I think it's possible that these medications are going to cause a lot of people to have more serious weight, health, eating, and body image problems because they're going to create a very intense and extreme yo-yo dieting cycle.
For a man, it's 70% higher. And if you already develop type 2 diabetes, it is 90% higher. So if we can effectively treat obesity, we can treat 200 other obesity-related diseases and live.
Yeah, but we don't know that we can yet. And these medications certainly have not been a slam dunk so far. They've caused a lot of problems for a lot of people. People are not staying on them forever. And when people go off of them, they're gaining the weight back plus more.
Literally save lives.
Well, I think that's very... I think there's still a lot of confusion around how and why the GLP-1 medicines work. This book goes into great detail that I know is going to help a lot of you on the journey.
Well, in case there's confusion, here's how they work. They suppress your appetite so that you aren't very hungry and you eat less food. And because you eat less food, you lose weight. That we know. We've lived in diet culture. How many diets have you out there gone on that for a while you ate a lot less and you lost weight? That's what's happening with these pills. There's no magic anything in these pills, in these shots. They're about to be pills. They are pills now. There's no magic anything in them. They're simply causing you to eat less. And so for those of us who have a dieting history, what we know is that when we push the body into restriction and we eat so much less, that we elicit the body's survival responses, the body pushes back, and then as soon as that restriction ends, we gain weight, oftentimes plus more.
Be able to wrap your brains around this. Can you explain it briefly how it works?
Sure.
Because you think it's working on your stomach. It's not. It's working on your brain.
Yeah. So what happens is that our body wants to survive. And so it sets this, in Oprah's case and in many people's.
GLP-1 is definitely being taken in by the brain. There's no doubt about it. I think that they're looking to see what the effect of that is. It might be positive. It might be negative. I don't know what that's actually going to be when they realize that. But the reason they're saying it works on the brain, I think in this context, what they mean is that the gut and the brain work together to generate hunger and fullness. And so when the gut is slowed down by these medications, that in that connection, the brain thinks that you have enough food, and it doesn't think that you need food. It suppressed your appetite. So that it's a gut brain connection that I think is really what the truth is about what these medications are doing. And so just wanted to jump in and say it's not that the GLP-1s are doing anything really that we know of specific to the brain. It's that they are actually they are slowing gut motility so that food stays in the gut longer, which means that the gut is sending a signal to the brain that we're full for much longer. And that's why people don't feel hungry while they're taking the medications. And it doesn't mean that they don't need food. I mean, this is one of the big risks of the medications because they don't feel hungry, they don't eat, and that causes malnutrition, which makes you sick and which makes this not a sustainable strategy in the long term.
So what happens is that our body wants to survive. And so it sets this, in Oprah's case and in many people's case, it sets a higher enough point. Our body doesn't think it has enough. So it's always striving for more fuel, for more fat, for more energy.
That's why you called the book that?
Yes, okay. That's exactly why I called the book that. I woke up with the idea for the title shortly after the idea for the book came up, and it really perfectly captured the essence. And that's because our body doesn't think it has enough. Oprah's body doesn't think it has enough. And the medicines recalibrate, they lower the enough point so that your body knows it has enough food, doesn't need any more. You just are, you've had enough. The other reason why it's called enough.
I mean, that is so misleading. I honestly cannot even believe that a doctor just said that GLP-1s are lowering your set point, or what she calls your enough point. That's 100% not true. I've done a lot of research on this because I keep hearing people who are proponents of these GLP-1s saying things like, oh, it's going to lower your weight set point. No, it's not. 100% that's not how it works. It's not going to lower your weight set point. We know that because when people go off of these medications, they gain all the weight back, oftentimes plus more, which means that your weight set point did not change as a result of going on these medications. These medications are simply suppressing your hunger and allowing you to exist without the nutrition that you need for long periods of time. And that is why you're losing weight, but that is not sustainable because that's how you're going to get malnourished. That's how you're going to lose your muscle mass. That's how your metabolism is going to get suppressed. That's, not to mention all the other risks to organs and things like that people take when they're on these drugs.
Is because we have so unfairly and tragically blamed people for having a disease that is not their fault and that is not their choice. This is about biology. This is about having a disease. And so we've had.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that we are ruthless to people in all kinds of bodies, let alone bigger bodies, or we're more ruthless to people in bigger bodies. That's diet culture. That's the diet culture effect. And it's terrible and it should stop because it is one of the things, as I've talked about quite a lot here, that helps people develop eating disorders, that helps people develop emotional eating and binge eating and food addiction and all the things that help to lead to obesity. And it just drives me crazy how rarely people talk about that. So, I mean, at least the doctor's talking about it here.
enough shame and blame.
Yeah, that's what the enough meant to me.
Yes,
Enough.
yes,
Enough. Like enough.
You've had enough.
Yeah. So
I mean, enough lies. That's how I feel. Enough selling us weight loss solutions that make us sick and that make us heavier over time and hungrier over time and sicker over time and less confident over time. I mean, I'd say enough to like this kind of thing. That's how I feel about it.
this is what I know for sure. That some people, no matter what you do, you can't lose the excess weight. We've watched Serena Williams win championships after championships. You all know she is the GOAT, the greatest of all times. She is an elite world-class athlete working out every single day, eating healthy food. Even she could not win the battle until now. Come on out of your...
Why did she need to? She's working out every day. She's eating healthy food. Health behaviors create healthy bodies, even though those bodies are very unlikely to fit into that tiny window of like ideal body type that we're always taught that we're supposed to be in. How did Serena Williams need to lose weight in Oprah's view or in her own view? I don't understand that at all. Actually, I said I don't understand that at all, but I do actually understand it from this perspective. Serena Williams actually wrote a pretty famous letter to her mom right after she had her first child, because she looked at her first child and she saw the beauty in this child who had a body that was built like hers. And she wrote this letter to her mom about how much of how body shamed, how much she had been shamed by the media about her body, about her beautiful, powerful body, and that it had caused her to never like her body. But now here she was looking at her daughter, who was so beautiful, who had a body like hers, realizing that her body was beautiful all along. And I love that letter so much. I share it with my clients all the time. So one of the things that this tells us is that, Serena Williams, I have to tell you, you had an amazing body. You did not need to lose weight. Your health behaviors were absolutely more than enough, way more than any of the rest of us will do in terms of the fitness that you achieved. And honestly, I'm just so sad that you thought that you had to go on a medication like this. One of the things that we know about Ozempic is that it causes muscle wasting at an alarming rate. And I just hate to think how this medication could be over time weakening someone like Serena Williams. And again, I feel sad for her. I don't judge her. I wish so much that somebody could have helped her to overcome these really toxic messages that she internalized about her body, because her body was never a problem. It was amazing.
Serena Williams. 23-time Grand Slam champion, the GOAT, Serena Williams, says her struggle with weight began after giving birth to her two daughters. In August 2025, Serena announced that she lost 31 pounds on a GLP-1 medication and is now partnering with the telehealth company Ro to share her story. Well, this is the thing. When you came out for Ro...
Okay, I mean, should we just play a little game? Like, who's sponsoring this thing that Oprah calls a podcast, but that's obviously more of like an infomercial? It is an infomercial, let's be real. It's obviously Ro. It's obviously Ro. That's why they're mentioning Ro right now. They mention Ro later. One of the audience members mentions Ro. And I don't know what Ro is. I haven't looked it up yet, but my guess would be that it probably is something that Oprah has a stake in and is either she's being sponsored to do this infomercial by Ro, or she probably has, stake in the company.
With Holy Lord Jesus and all your disciples, I felt that was a seminal moment. And I was like, so proud of you, because I knew that you were going to get a whole lot of, oh, how dare you? And what do you mean? And Yeah. And what was that like for you the day that you came out for Ro?
I just felt good. First of all, you know me, I don't listen to the noise. I'm like, get in line, there's a very long line. Go all the way to the back. And you're gonna be a long time before I hear that complaint. But it made so much sense because, as you were saying, I'm an elite athlete and I loved hearing what you were talking about because all that stuff makes so much sense. And I think everyone's personal body is different.
Yes.
And like the food noise, like all the benefits that the GLP-1s can have, I just feel like for me, I just felt totally different. And I'm literally like my last match at the Open, I literally was working 8 hours a day in the gym training, and I never could lose an ounce. In fact, I feel like I may even gained weight.
Wow.
And it was incredible.
Why did you need to lose weight? I mean, you were obviously like so strong, so athletic, and I say that question and I understand that Serena Williams was under all this pressure. So she thought she needed to lose weight. I'm sad for that. I'm sad for all of us for that.
How my body looked, even though I was putting in hours. And I'm talking, we're in the summer in Florida, putting in hours and hours and hours of training. And I was eating
Well, that's
right.
why I
That
said,
was
Lord
an-
Jesus, you know. That is Serena Williams, who's working out 8 hours a day,
Literally.
cannot lose weight.
No.
Something's up. It's the
Something-
biology.
I think it's biology. And I think also when you have kids,
She wasn't supposed to be. I know. I've said it. You know what I feel.
maybe that biology changes. You would have to tell me, but I feel like a little of that changed. And also as you age, a little of it changes. And then you just learn so much about the GLP-1s and how much they're affecting your body with.
Yes, our bodies change. I mean, we have pathologized this so badly. The nature of a body is change. The nature of a body is change. Our bodies change. Our bodies gain weight, they lose weight. If you get really stressed, you might gain weight. You go through puberty, you're going to gain some weight. You go through menopause, you're going to gain weight. You have a baby, you're going to gain weight. Your body is going to change. Like the fact that we have pathologized this is part of what the obesity epidemic is.
Different proteins that it's doing. And it's just,
So it did change for you after having your first child.
yeah, absolutely. It did change for me. Yeah. I couldn't lose
Of
weight the way I
course.
used to.
Yeah.
Of
And it was
course.
actually virtually impossible.
Yeah.
Normal.
With 8 hours, I mean,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And your workouts, we've seen your workouts.
Yes, my workouts are insane. A professional athlete. I was actually playing a professional sport.
Yes.
So I felt
Drop
it's so
the mic,
important-
y'all. That's it.
I felt it's so important to tell my story because I felt like a lot of people could relate to that.
And I loved when you shared your story because for the very reason you are the most amazing athlete. And
Of
yet
all
you- of all
time.
I think I'm beating a dead horse here. I wish the story that she was telling was the one where she overcame the mental weight of having been told and made to believe that there was something wrong with her amazing body. She's got an amazing body. She's an amazing athlete. She's an amazing person. And we really need to look at ourselves as a society to realize that, you know, some of our greats, like, they don't even know it. They've been so pressured in diet culture. They don't even know they're great. They don't even know they're good. They don't even know they're enough, for the title of her book.
But I couldn't beat that weight.
Yeah,
I couldn't beat the weight.
exactly.
The one opponent I could not defeat.
Is the weight.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was so exciting to work with Ro. And then they really wanted really wanted to tell a story. They didn't just want to just single out like me. They really wanted to tell a story about so many people were dealing with what I was dealing with.
I read that you were initially.
I mean, of course, they really wanted to sell a story. They really wanted to sell the narrative that finally we have a solution for obesity. And as you'll see later on in this, not just for obesity, but for like anybody who wants to lose weight, we got the solution. That's the story they want to tell. That's the story they're telling. And it's just, I mean, I call BS.
Skeptical of the GLP-1.
Absolutely. Yes, because it's like the skinny shot and like it's a shortcut. And so for years I didn't do it, not for years, but for a long time I didn't do it and I didn't want to do it. And I thought like, I'm not going to take the shortcut. You know, I'm not going to work.
I mean, it's not a shortcut. It's an appetite suppressant. You will temporarily probably lose weight on it, although there are people that don't lose any weight on it. They have non-responders, which is interesting. But it is not a solution to weight. It is a something that will help you lose weight temporarily. If you go off of it, that weight's coming back, plus more, because now you've actually changed your metabolism, you've changed your muscle mass, you've changed your appetite, you've changed your hormones, all of that.
Harder. But then eventually I was like, I've tried everything. I've tried every diet. I've tried every workout. I've tried walking for hours. I would go to Europe and Paris and I would just walk for hours and the 20,000 steps a day, like every single thing, you know? And
I mean, maybe trust that, like that your body is not meant to be different and your body's beautiful. And I'm sorry you've been through what you've been through.
nothing was working.
Yes.
Or I would, so
Yes.
this was killing me backstage. I would lose the weight, but my body liked to be at a certain weight. That was so eye-opening for me. I was like, I didn't know that.
The enough point.
Yes, I was like,
there.
and it's so weird because like whenever I lose weight, it's like all of a sudden I'll get even hungrier.
Yes,
and I'm like,
exactly.
and when I reach a certain weight, it wants to go back to the other
Yes.
weight. And I'm like,
Yes.
no, it's
And-
That's
and-
your biology. That's your
So you
biology.
get hungrier, and guess what?
It's not her biology. That's biology. Just everyone's.
What? When you're playing those amazing tennis matches, your body's burning less. It's more efficient. So it's
interesting.
making you eat more and burn less
Oh,
because it wants to keep you at that enough point.
listen, and,
Yeah.
and I had enough of that enough point. So what?
Because it wants to keep you strong with all that energy that you're expending. That's healthy. That's healthy. Ugh.
What made you change your mind about trying the medications?
Well, honestly, I've heard a lot about this medication, about the GLP-1s, not only for weight loss. So that's the original reason I got on it, because I was like, listen, first of all, I do want to lose weight, but there's also other benefits. I don't know if you can share those benefits, but anyway, I read there's lots of other benefits in GLP. I'm so excited to read your book, because there's so many more benefits in GLP-1s. But I was like, let me at least try those benefits and maybe I can lose weight with it. But again, everyone's body is different. So I don't know how you guys all feel. I didn't lose, you lost weight. The food only stopped for you, you said instantly?
Yeah, it stopped like the next day.
A month or two for me.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone else had that, experience, but a couple of my friends are like, oh, I've been on it for a month and I've only lost like 3 pounds. I'm like, that's okay. I actually probably lost 1 pound. So I think everyone's personal body, talk to me about that. Why
Everybody loses differently. I know somebody that just started, they lost a female who lost on the lowest dose, lost 13 pounds in 1 month. That is highly unusual. I hear that there are super responders to this medication and there are low responders. There's some people who respond really, really strongly to it and other people don't.
And that's because there's different types of obesities. There's not one type of obesity. There's different types of obesity. We just haven't figured out.
I had the tough type.
But you responded, which is really wonderful. And likely what happened with you is you probably needed a higher dose. You got to start at the low dose. We'll talk about side effects later, but we got to start at the lowest dose and go up.
If you don't start at the low dose, everybody, we will talk about side effects later, but if you don't start at the low dose, that's why a lot of people were having major side effects in the beginning, growing up. All of the gastrointestinal issues come when you take too high of a dose and you don't gradually move into higher dose.
So it's really good because it sounds like you started at the appropriate low dose.
Go by the book.
You go by the book. Gotta go by the book. And then you go up and you probably just needed to get to that higher dose. It just takes time. But that's a good thing. The weight did not come on overnight. We don't want it to come off overnight. We want to do it slowly. We want to do it well. We want to maintain all that wonderful muscle mass, right? We don't want to lose it all at once. So this is very good. This is very good. Yeah.
So you've been now taking.
I mean, that's a sensible idea in terms of like, don't lose weight too fast, because then you are going to more seriously trigger your body's survival responses and put yourself into, a bigger yo-yo dieting cycle.
The medications for nearly a year. What's changed for you?
So my life, I feel happier. I mean, I feel like I have more energy for my kids. I just feel like I can do more. Don't laugh, but I love to dance. I can drop it. I got knees like me.
I mean, I'm really glad for her because not everybody feels happy and has more energy on these medications. In fact, a lot of people feel very tired, very sluggish, very depressed, suicidal, lack of motivation, lack of joy for all kinds of things in life. So, I don't know. Is she being honest? Everybody has their different experience, but that's just not the experience everybody's having.
Take it now. Would you like to see it? I would love to see it. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
You.
I mean, anybody else with me? Like, this is one of our most elite American athletes. Like, she's done a lot more impressive movement than that in her life. I don't exactly know what she's saying. Did she lose that? I don't fully understand that.
So great.
No, but seriously, it affects my joints my joints are so much lighter and so much better. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just wish I had done this while I was still playing. Like, it would have made such a big difference for me in my career.
You back.
It could.
I mean, weight loss is like, it's like easier on the joints, losing weight easier. When we weigh less, that is easier on the joints, but like it's kind of like beside the point, because like, is this weight loss going to be sustainable, or is it going to be another terrible yo-yo dieting cycle? For a lot of people, it's not sustainable to be on these medications, and it is a terrible yo-yo dieting cycle. So, I mean, I'm happy for her, but like, is this temporary? Like, we don't know.
But yeah, so it's just, as I skip over that, okay, it's just like, it's affected me. Like, I feel physically so much better. I feel more alert. And it's just to be able to do things that I could never do. Like, even when I was playing, I could never do that at my highest because I realized it was extra weight that my joints were carrying. And I can go to the clubs now. We saw you. Listen, during the Super Bowl, doing the thing we did. I hear you.
I mean, she does so much more than go to the club. She's amazing. She's an incredible athlete. Like,
you really want people to understand, and I think this is so important, that the medications are not a shortcut. I mean, first of all, I think that's why I was so proud of you, because for you, Serena Williams, the greatest of all times, to say you were having problems and now you understand that it was because of your biology and your enough point for you to not to be able to conquer the weight means it's truly biological.
Yeah, and it's so relatable because so many people, as we see, are dealing with this. Obesity is a real thing. And the more I read about it, the more how it's just going to help so many things.
Yes.
Like you were talking about heart disease, which is the number 1 killer
Of Americans.
of Americans. And it's just
13 types of cancer, diabetes, all these different things.
We don't know yet.
I
We don't know.
I love
That's
the road
not
you said.
been proven.
yes, I don't. You don't.
Not enough time. I think an important thing for people to realize is that, when they say like these drugs have been studied and they're so safe, they've been studied for such a long time, what they're talking about is that these drugs have been used for 20 years for diabetes at low doses in people who have diabetes. In terms of using them for weight loss, it's a totally different thing because you have a mega dose, a high dose of these medications. Oftentimes they're being administered to people who do not have diabetes. These people, this scenario by which we use these shots for weight loss has not been deeply studied, has not been something we've been doing for a long time. 2021 is the first time that Ozempic, I believe, was approved for the use of weight loss. And so it's been like, some years of an experiment. It's becoming incredibly popular now. So we're seeing a lot more of the benefits and the problems with these medications. And we're going to know a lot more in 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
I thought that was another thing. And I loved how Ro wanted to put this together because I've never taken a shortcut in my life. In fact, I would go the longer way to make sure I was the best, to make sure I did the extra work, to make sure I did the most. And so for me, and that's why it took me a little bit to want to start on the GLP-1, because I thought, well, is this a shortcut? And it really wasn't. It's just, if anything, it's just a shortcut to better health.
Yeah.
And that's just the way to look at it.
And it's a way to get healthy.
But maybe not forever. It might be a shortcut for better health for a short period of time. And then when you get the metabolic suppression and the muscle loss and the malnutrition and all the other risks and the organ risks, all the other stuff, it could mean worse health over time. We don't know.
If you had diabetes, we wouldn't say, well, I'm sorry, you can't have any insulin.
Right.
You got to do all these
We wouldn't
things.
say, let me try to do without the insulin as long as I can.
Exactly. Let me concentrate really, really hard and make my blood sugars normal.
Mhm.
We would never say that to a
No.
patient. Why do we say?
Yeah, but this medication is different, right? Because there are known and there are unknown consequences to using these medications at high doses in people without diabetes for weight loss. So we would never, if we have a wonderful treatment for a condition that somebody has, we would not want to hold that back from them. But in this case, there are so many knowns and unknowns of really negative consequences with these medications. So I don't know that it's such a slam dunk as they want it to seem.
Say, okay, for the rest of your life, control every morsel of food that you're eating, control every movement that you're doing for the rest of your life. Why would we ever do that? Let's treat the biology. Let's treat the biology just like we treat it for any other disease. So this is absolutely not a shortcut. This is a way to treat your disease.
But I think that we weren't looking at it
I mean,
as a
we don't
disease.
know.
You're absolutely right.
Looking at it in
You're
a different
absolutely
way.
right.
But if you
You're
do change how you look at it and change the conversation,
Yes.
this is why this conversation is so important. I'm so glad we talked about this. Because I'm like, we have to do something.
Yes, we were talking about it.
And so it's about having these types of conversations and educating people that this is a disease. Now treat it.
Yes, and you're a huge part of that.
Yeah.
And obviously, so is Oprah.
Yeah.
Sade, what did you want to say?
Oh my gosh, Serena, I was on the subway on my way to work when I read an article about you being on the GLP-1s,
Yeah.
and I immediately signed up with Ro while on the train because given that you are the GOAT and your
Ro.
career is evidence of that, I just knew I could see myself in you. And
Ro, their sponsor. I mean, I would really like to know the doctor, Oprah, Serena, like, are they invested in this company, Ro, that's providing this medication? Like, what's the deal there? Obviously, this is an infomercial for Ro as well.
just know that it's been working. I mean, since August, I've lost over 20 pounds.
Wow.
And as a psychologist by trade, I've always appreciated how you've just showed emotional strength and vulnerability throughout your career. It's really helped women like myself and my clients be able to understand that like resilience is not about, not meeting challenges, but really meeting yourself with self-compassion and grace. And while being with Ro on these GLP-1s, I've just had so much compassion for myself.
Ro.
I mean, I was working out 4 times a week doing HIIT workouts.
Oh, me too. I love a HIIT workout.
Yes,
though.
I messed up the silk press, but I loved it. But, I wasn't seeing any results and I still had cravings. And then once I started the GLP-1s, I'm still doing the HIIT workouts 4 times a week. I still have energy.
I mean, maybe that's not how your body was supposed to be. And again, no judgment, just like diet culture indoctrination, right? I feel for you. And I know how that feels. And I internalize that stuff too. And it's really hard to live in a body that you feel is wrong. It's incredibly stressful, incredible amount of pressure. It's terrible what diet culture does to people. And, I wish that more people could lose the mental weight that diet culture has caused them and realize that their bodies are fine and also get all the health benefits that come from healing from from what all the years of dieting and being stressed and being hooked on food and restricting food and being in yo-yo dieting cycles has actually done to us. We need to heal from that. And these medications aren't healing it. They're just kind of like numbing it out for a while. That's what I can see so far.
To show up and do that. So it's just been, thank you so much.
Doesn't it make the workouts that much better? That's what I've noticed. My workouts have improved like exponentially.
Absolutely. And my knees, like, I'm not going to drop.
Okay. I mean, that's not the experience a lot of people are having on these medications. So many people are feeling lethargic, lack of motivation, unable to work out. And it becomes so much of a problem because, like, if you're going to be on a GLP-1, I mean, you kind of almost have to do your health perfectly because you have this drug that's wasting your muscle mass. And so you have to work so hard to keep your muscle, harder than somebody who's not on that drug to keep your muscle. I mean, we're losing muscle as we age anyway. This drug is increasing that. So you're going to have to work so hard to keep your muscle mass, but this drug can make you very tired and sluggish and mess with your motivation. So you might not want to work out. You might not feel like you are able to work out. The other thing is that because it's suppressing your appetite, you're at a risk for malnutrition and all of the disease and disorder that comes from malnutrition. And so, when in your little window of eating, when your appetite is suppressed, it's like your nutrition, what you eat has to be so incredibly nutritious. And this is a subject for another day, but what I am discovering from people who are using these medications is that a lot of times when they have that little window, they're wanting to get their favorite foods in that are highly processed and don't have a lot of nutrition. And there's, not a lot of room to eat. And so a lot of times they're having comfort food or they're just not having enough nourishing food. So that is, going to be a really big problem on a GLP-1.
That's in case you want to.
But even with the running, I'm noticing my joints and knees are not, feeling as tight and heavy and sore.
Yeah. And there are, we think there are anti-inflammatory effects. So it's carrying less and it's the anti-inflammatory. And that's, that's where a lot of the research is now because.
I mean, and I hear this again, I hear this all the time. Like it's, decreasing my inflammation. It's, in improving my metabolic health, all these things. I mean, let's just remember there's nothing like magic happening with these medications. They are suppressing the appetite, which means that you're eating less. And that may be temporarily making your labs look better because perhaps you're not eating as much foods or the kinds of foods you were eating temporarily, at least. I just want to say that, my lab work was absolutely horrendous when I was in my eating disorder. And I was, developing disease and disorder because of the malnutrition, because of the binge eating, because of all the stress that I was under, all the restriction that I was doing. And what really, really changed my lab work was learning how to take care of myself from a nutrition and an emotional standpoint. Healing from the mental weight of having learned to hate my body, learning how to get like lots of nutrition into my diet. That doesn't mean that I don't eat processed food. I do, but I want a lot less of it because I get a lot of nutrition in, and learning how to do that. And that changed that improved my health so much and my lab work so much. So like what they're talking about, like just eating more salad, eating more plant fiber, getting more, seeds and nuts and beans and healthy proteins and grains and veggies into your diet, like that's going to improve your lab work as well. And I'm not saying that's an easy thing to do, but that is a possible thing to do. And it is an alternative that doesn't have any bad side effects.
Patients are sharing with us what they're experiencing. So already 2 examples right here: food noise, the joints, the anti-inflammatory effects. So we're learning from all of you. We're literally learning from all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, don't you feel
for that.
freer? Don't you feel freer?
I feel freer. I feel better. I have more confidence. Not that the thing is, it's not that I didn't have confidence before, because I did, but it's just different. You know what I mean? It's just heightened. And it's like that self-love. It's like you have it, but then it just comes out in a different type of way. Mm-hmm. And it takes away things that you didn't know that you were feeling, or you were subconsciously feeling because of the extra weight that you had on you, that you tried. You said you would do 4 workouts a day.
Yeah.
And like how you weren't losing the weight. I can totally relate. You look great, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we know you have a busy schedule, so thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
Okay, so this is getting rather long. I'm going to end it here. But before I end it, I just want to say, Oprah is an outlier in her experience that she's been sharing on these medications. The vast majority of people who go on these medications will not stay on them for multiple years, as she has. Apparently she's been on them, I think, for 3 years. I have to check that. I'm not sure that fact is correct, but she's been on them for multiple years. She said that she went off of them for 1 year and that she started to gain the weight back, which is more evidence, and we have a whole lot of it, that these medications are not decreasing your weight set point. They are that as soon as you go off of them, you will regain that weight and plus more in a lot of cases. But one of the things also that I think makes Oprah an outlier is like, I'm just going to doubt that the only thing that she's done is use a GLP-1. I mean, my guess is that with the resources that she has, she's probably done a lot of surgeries. She's probably, has people making food for her. She probably has like all kinds of advantages and resources that the average person won't have. I think she says later on that she works out 2 hours a day. I mean, who has time for that? Like most of us do not have time, won't have time for that. What else is she doing? She's an outlier. And what I really, really hated about this infomercial, and I will call it an infomercial because it's obvious that's what it is. What I really, really hated about it is this idea that if I've had this experience, all you guys are going to have this experience, and how much they really actually are not talking about all the people who've been to the hospital. Recently a friend of mine had to go to the hospital for a condition that she was having. And on the list of questions that they're asking everybody is, are you on Ozempic? Because they're so used to people coming into the hospital because they're taking Ozempic and they're having these terrible side effects that cause them to have to make an ER visit. So like, they're just not talking about the downside. They're not talking about the risks. They're not talking about the side effects. They're not talking, well, they talked a little bit about the side effects and how you mitigate them. They're not talking about the known and the unknown consequences of being on these medications. They're just making it seem so easy and, like the complete solution. There's nothing left to learn. Please go on it. And in fact, I am going to actually fast forward because I want to share with you just one last thing that I think is perhaps the most egregious thing that I heard this doctor and Oprah say. So let's go to the end.
Great question.
Yeah.
So the reason why I'm doing this, even though I know I'm going to get a lot of hateration for it, is because I just believe that these medications should be accessible to everybody.
I agree.
I see how much they've changed my life. I have been in the struggle for a very long time. All of you who've watched me over the years know what that struggle has looked like, up and down and yo-yoing and yo-yoing and yo-yoing, feeling bad about myself, feeling shame, all that. And
I believe that they should be accessible to everybody, Oprah says, and the doctor says, I agree. Okay, like I disagree. And I'm not saying like that I should be the police on what people do. Your body's your business. Do what you want to do. There are so many risks, side effects, known and unknown consequences. Long term, these aren't working out for people. Most people are getting off of them. And we know that as soon as you get off of them, you go right back to normal. There is no healing that's happening. There's simply appetite suppression. So to make these accessible to everybody in a society where diet culture has caused so many people to feel like they are too big, even when they are not, and when these medications have really serious side effects and long-term consequences, to make them available to everybody is like highly irresponsible. How about making them available in like some of the most extreme cases where people need to lose weight right away in order to save their lives or give them back their mobility, or really extreme cases where people really need these medications and where the benefits outweigh the risks. Yes, make them available there and let's all learn from what happens. But what has actually happened is that these medications have been made so available that both through credible channels and through really sketchy channels, so many people are getting their hands on them who do not need to lose weight, who will not benefit from losing weight, who actually will be more hurt by these medications than they will be helped. And we're all seeing it. We're seeing all of these people getting like skeleton-like skinny. It looks so scary and they look so sick, and we're seeing that everywhere. And many people are seeing their loved ones get sucked into these medications and get sick and get unwell. So one of the biggest issues that I take with these medications being so available and widespread through like credible channels and through sketchy channels is that people are misusing them. People are using them as a treatment for body dissatisfaction versus for like extreme obesity related illness. And what that means is a lot of people are misusing them. A lot of people are taking really high risks with their health in order to lose a little bit of weight. We're seeing, especially in celebrities, we're seeing people develop what looks to me like anorexia, which is the deadliest of the mental disorders. You know, and also when a serious drug like this becomes a weight loss fad, and we have like 60 to 70% of people not staying on this forever, they call it a forever drug. It's a forever drug. We are going to put so many people into another super yo-yo dieting cycle. And that is bad for your health. We are going to have a lot of people that who went through this yo-yo dieting cycle lost muscle mass, lost bone density, became malnourished, had organ problems, had organ disease develop because of this, had to have organs removed, had their guts be blocked or stopped or paralyzed. There's already litigation about that. Lost their vision. There's litigation about that already underway. So I just feel like I just cringe when people say that these are miracle drugs. I can understand where they might be miracle drugs in very specific situations. I get that. But when I hear people say that, I just cringe because to a large extent, I see these being like a train wreck that is happening right before our eyes. And I am really sad and really disappointed in doctors like this one and, you know, celebrities like Oprah who are trying to normalize these drugs at this time when they are not yet something that we can truly rely upon to be healthy and sustainable. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear what you think. Please leave your comments down below. Let's have a conversation about this.